There is a difference between attention and intention, between politeness and passion, between friendliness and desire. And most people confuse the two. They tell themselves, maybe this is just kindness, maybe this is just personality, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But energy does not lie, psychology does not lie, the body does not lie. When desire enters the room, it shifts the atmosphere, it changes tone, it changes focus, it changes behavior in subtle but undeniable ways. The truth is, when attraction is more than friendly, it begins to reveal itself in patterns, not in dramatic confessions, not in loud declarations, but in consistent psychological shifts that cannot be faked for long. The first sign is depth of attention. Friendly interest is casual, it comes and goes. It exists in shared spaces and disappears when distractions appear. But when desire is involved, attention becomes intentional. Conversations are remembered in detail. Small preferences are stored like important data. The way you take your coffee, the story you told about your childhood, the random fear you mentioned once in passing, none of it is forgotten. Psychology teaches us that we invest cognitive energy only in what emotionally matters to us. When someone consistently remembers the smallest details, it is not because they have an exceptional memory. It is because emotional relevance sharpens focus. Attention becomes selective. You become the focus in a crowded room. Even when others are speaking, eyes return to you. Even when the conversation shifts, the body subtly reorients toward you. Friendly interaction does not require that level of mental investment. Desire does. The second sign is protective behavior that goes beyond basic courtesy. Politeness opens doors. Basic decency checks if you arrived home safely. But when desire is present, protection becomes instinctive. There is subtle monitoring of your comfort. Crowded spaces trigger a shift in positioning. If someone speaks to you in a tone that feels dismissive, energy changes. The body language tightens. The voice deepens, not in aggression, but in boundary. This is rooted in evolutionary psychology. Attraction activates territorial instincts, not ownership, but protectiveness. It shows in micro moments, standing slightly closer when you feel uncomfortable, offering support before you even ask, checking your mood shifts with unusual sensitivity. Friendly people care, but they do not feel responsible for your emotional climate. Desire creates that sense of emotional responsibility. The third sign is nervousness disguised as composure. True friendliness is relaxed. There is no internal pressure. Words flow easily because nothing is at stake. But when feelings deepen, the nervous system responds. There may be subtle fidgeting, slight changes in speech speed, occasional overthinking of simple texts, a pause before responding to something personal. This is not insecurity. This is emotional investment. When someone cares how they are perceived by you specifically, their nervous system activates. Studies in social psychology show that attraction increases self-monitoring behavior. There is a heightened awareness of posture, tone, and reaction. If someone is normally confident, yet becomes slightly more careful, slightly more aware, slightly more intentional around you, that shift is not random. It signals that your opinion carries weight. And we only grant that kind of power to people we desire. The fourth sign is consistency beyond convenience. Friendly interactions are situational. They depend on proximity, shared environments, or mutual activities. Remove the setting and the interaction fades. But when desire is real, effort continues beyond convenience. Messages are sent without a practical reason. Check-ins happen without an agenda. Plans are created rather than stumbled upon. Psychology calls this proactive investment. Time is our most valuable resource. When someone consistently allocates time to you without external obligation, it indicates priority. Priority is never accidental. it is chosen. Desire motivates choice. If someone rearranges schedules, extends conversations late into the night, or creates excuses to prolong interaction, it reveals intention beyond friendliness. Friendly energy stays within boundaries of ease. Desire pushes beyond comfort. The fifth sign is emotional vulnerability that is selective. Friendly people share stories, they laugh, they discuss surface level struggles. But when someone begins to reveal deeper fears, personal insecurities, childhood wounds, or unspoken dreams specifically to you, it signals trust combined with attraction. Vulnerability is risky. The brain does not open that door without emotional significance. When someone chooses you as the safe place for their unfiltered thoughts, it means your presence feels important. Emotional intimacy is rarely offered casually. It is offered intentionally. And when desire is present, the longing to be understood becomes stronger. There is a subtle hope in the way personal stories are told, a quiet search for acceptance in your reaction. Now, here is what many misunderstand. Desire does not always announce itself loudly. It often hides behind humor, behind teasing, behind just joking. Playful teasing that centers on your reactions is rarely random. It is a psychological test of emotional closeness. When someone playfully challenges you, notices your expressions, and enjoys your reactions with unusual intensity, it reveals focus. Focus reveals interest. Interest reveals desire. Friendly teasing is general. It happens with everyone. But when the teasing feels charged, when eye contact lingers a second too long afterward, when there is a slight shift in tone, the message becomes layered. Another indicator lies in mirroring behavior. Humans subconsciously mirror those they are attracted to. Speech patterns align, posture subtly matches, even breathing rhythms can synchronize during deep conversation. This is not imitation, it is neurological bonding. Mirror neurons activate when emotional interest increases. If someone begins adopting your phrases, matching your pace, or aligning their energy with yours unconsciously, it signals connection beyond friendship. Friendship creates comfort. Desire creates synchronization. Pay attention also to jealousy that is quickly hidden. Not dramatic jealousy, not possessiveness, but micro reactions. A slight change in facial expression when you mention someone else. A pause before responding. A shift in questions about that person. Psychology teaches us that emotional attachment triggers comparison sensitivity. When desire exists, the brain evaluates potential competition. Friendly interest does not produce that response. It remains neutral. If there is subtle tension masked by composure, it reveals internal investment. Observe the way silence is handled. With friends, silence can feel neutral. It is simply absence of conversation. But when desire is present, silence becomes charged. Eye contact lingers. Breathing becomes noticeable. There is an awareness in the stillness. The space between words feels heavier. That tension is psychological energy-seeking expression. It is the body communicating what the mouth has not yet said. Notice also the difference in physical proximity. Friendly space remains socially appropriate and consistent. Desire shortens distance unconsciously, leaning slightly closer during conversation, finding reasons to sit beside rather than across. Subtle touches that seem accidental but happen repeatedly. A brush of the hand that lingers a fraction too long. The nervous system responds strongly to desired presence. Dopamine levels rise. Physical closeness becomes rewarding. This is biology intertwined with psychology. Then there is the shift in tone when speaking about the future. Friendly conversations about the future remain individual, but when desire grows, future language begins to include you. We should try that place someday. You would love this. Imagine if we did this. It may sound casual, but inclusive language reveals subconscious planning. The brain begins visualizing shared experiences. Visualization is a precursor to intention. Another subtle sign is heightened responsiveness. Messages are replied to faster than average. Calls are returned promptly. Even when busy, there is effort to maintain connection. This is not about availability, it is about priority. When someone desires connection, the brain rewards interaction. Ignoring you feels uncomfortable. Engagement feels satisfying. That difference shows in behavior. And finally, observe emotional intensity. Friendly interactions fluctuate gently, but desire amplifies emotion. Compliments feel more sincere. Disagreements carry more weight. Laughter feels deeper. There is an emotional charge beneath ordinary moments. When your approval brightens the mood noticeably, when your disappointment shifts the atmosphere significantly, it indicates that your perception matters. And perception only matters deeply when feelings exist. The truth is, desire is revealed not in one grand gesture, but in accumulated evidence. Patterns, consistency, subtle shifts repeated over time. Psychology is the study of behavior, and behavior does not lie. Words can be controlled. Actions can be moderated, but micro-expressions, nervous system responses, and consistent prioritization reveal the truth. If attention is deeper, protection is instinctive, nervousness is present, effort exceeds convenience, and vulnerability becomes selective, then the connection has moved beyond friendliness. And when you begin to see these signs, the question is no longer whether desire exists. The real question becomes whether you are ready to acknowledge it. And when that energy begins to intensify, another sign quietly appears in the way admiration is expressed. Friendly compliments are generic and evenly distributed. They sound polite, predictable, and socially safe. But when desire is involved, admiration becomes specific and observant. Instead of commenting only on appearance, attention shifts to qualities that feel personal. Your way of thinking, the way you handle pressure, the tone of your laughter, the passion behind your opinions. Specific admiration requires observation. Observation requires focus. And sustained focus is rarely given without emotional motivation. When someone studies your personality, instead of just noticing your presence, it reveals a deeper pull. There is also a shift in emotional availability. Friendly people show up when it is convenient, when the mood is light, when circumstances are easy. But when desire grows, presence extends into difficult moments. If you are stressed, there is unusual concern. If you are quiet, there is curiosity instead of distance. Emotional shifts are detected quickly. This heightened sensitivity is not random. It is attunement. In psychology, attunement occurs when someone becomes finely aware of another person's internal state. That level of emotional tuning rarely exists in casual friendships. It requires care, and care requires desire. Another subtle indicator lies in the way boundaries are tested carefully, almost respectfully. When attraction is present, there is a quiet exploration of how close one is allowed to get, emotionally and physically. Questions become slightly more personal. Eye contact lasts slightly longer. Jokes carry slightly more tension. But there is also caution, a watchfulness for your reaction. This is not manipulation. It is risk assessment. Desire involves vulnerability, and vulnerability makes people careful. If reactions are positive, closeness increases. If reactions are neutral, there is a momentary retreat. That dance between advancing and pausing reveals emotional stakes. Pay attention to energy shifts when you enter a room. The body often reacts before the mind fully processes emotion. Posture straightens. Tone changes, focus sharpens. It is subtle but noticeable over time. Friendly interaction does not require physiological adjustment. But when attraction is present, adrenaline can rise. The nervous system becomes alert. That alertness translates into heightened awareness of you. Even in group settings, there is a gravitational pull. Conversations may continue, but attention subtly tracks your movements. There is also a pattern of seeking validation from you specifically. Opinions that normally stand firm may soften in your presence. Decisions may be shared for feedback. Achievements are mentioned with a glance toward your reaction. Approval becomes rewarding. This is rooted in attachment psychology. When someone begins valuing your validation above others, it signals emotional significance. Friendly acquaintances enjoy approval generally. Desire seeks approval personally. Notice also the way conflict is handled. In casual friendship, disagreement can be brushed aside easily. Distance is acceptable. Silence does not feel threatening. But when desire exists, tension feels heavier. There is discomfort in unresolved misunderstanding. Effort is made to repair quickly. Clarification is sought. Because losing emotional closeness feels like loss, not inconvenience. The willingness to resolve conflict rather than ignore it reveals investment. Humor changes as well. Playfulness may carry underlying flirtation. Inside jokes are created intentionally. Shared laughter becomes a bonding ritual. Humor becomes a tool to build exclusivity, a private language that separates your connection from others. Exclusivity is a psychological marker of growing intimacy. When someone begins creating moments that belong only to the two of you, it suggests desire for a unique bond rather than general companionship. Then there is the subtle shift in priorities. Schedules adapt. Invitations are declined if they conflict with time spent together. Even when physically absent, communication maintains connection. This is not about dependency. It is about intention. Time allocation reflects emotional ranking. When someone consistently chooses interaction with you over alternative options, it indicates that your presence holds higher value. Another powerful sign lies in protective honesty. Friendly people often avoid difficult truths to maintain comfort, but when desire deepens, honesty becomes important because authenticity becomes important. There may be moments of serious conversation where advice is offered not casually but thoughtfully. Concern is expressed in a way that reflects long-term care. That depth of honesty suggests envisioning a lasting presence in your life. Observe the eyes. Eye contact during friendly conversation is intermittent and balanced, but when attraction intensifies, eye contact lingers, softens, deepens. Pupils may dilate subtly. The gaze may shift from your eyes to your lips and back again in fleeting seconds. These are involuntary biological responses tied to attraction. The body communicates what restraint attempts to hide. Even the way your name is spoken can change. There may be a softness, a pause, a tone that carries warmth. Names hold power in communication. When spoken with intention, they signal emotional emphasis. Friendly speech is neutral. Desire infuses tone with subtle affection. And there is the phenomenon of remembering dates, moments, and shared experiences with unusual clarity. The first time you met, the exact words you used in an important conversation, the song that played during a shared drive. Memory becomes emotionally coded. Neuroscience shows that emotional arousal strengthens memory retention. If someone recalls shared details vividly, it indicates those moments carried emotional weight. Sometimes desire also reveals itself through restraint, pulling back slightly after moments of closeness, becoming quieter after intense eye contact, creating temporary distance after emotional vulnerability. This is not indifference, it is self-protection. When feelings grow stronger than expected, there can be fear of exposure. That push and pull dynamic often signals internal conflict between desire and caution. Watch also how physical reactions respond to proximity. Breathing may deepen, voice may lower unconsciously, hands may find reasons to gesture closer. The body leans in during meaningful conversation. These micro adjustments happen beneath conscious awareness. They are instinctive signals of attraction. And perhaps one of the strongest indicators is emotional exclusivity. When personal updates are shared with you first, when important news is directed toward you before others, when mood shifts are explained to you even if others remain unaware. That prioritization of emotional sharing suggests you occupy a central space. Over time, patterns form. Patterns are more reliable than isolated incidents. A single compliment can be friendly, a single long gaze can be accidental, but repeated depth of attention, consistent prioritization, protective instincts, subtle nervousness, emotional vulnerability, and physical attunement form a psychological narrative. And narratives reveal truth beneath surface politeness. Desire is rarely loud at first. It grows in quiet intensity. It builds in the spaces between words. It lingers in eye contact. It hides in concern. It reveals itself in effort. And when you observe these shifts consistently, you begin to understand that what appears friendly on the surface may carry layers of emotional depth underneath, layers that continue to unfold with every shared moment, every extended conversation, every silence that feels heavier than it should, every look that stays just a second longer than necessary, every small action that quietly says you matter more than the rest.